45 days.
I don't know where the camera is anymore.
Can't see you, but we can hear you. There you are.
The camera on my is being very strange.
For settlement, opioid settlement. I always put the title on. Otherwise I can keep something on my desk to remember.
So it's not in Bossa Nova at all?
Whenever you are. Bossa Nova on the old parcel.
But not on the new?
Correct.
You said you're ready to.
Yeah, whenever you are.
I'm going to call the meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mochler.
Here.
Packard.
Here,
Here. Manning.
Here.
Hammond.
Any conflict of interest declarations? Hearing none, we have approval of agenda. We need to add Joint Powers Solid Waste and Recycling Advisory Board, along with opioid settlement and there's an opening on the Planning and Zoning Board, or will be. We need to put something we need to talk about.
I so move.
second,
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hammond.
Yes.
Manning.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Packard.
yes,
Mochler.
Yes, motion passes. Approve minutes.
Move approval.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, roll call.
Hammond.
Yes.
Manning.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Packard.
yes,
Mochler.
Yes, motion passes. Are there any visitors to be heard? Hearing none, take a motion to go into ditch board.
So move.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Hammond.
Aye.
Manning.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Packard.
yes,
Mochler.
Yes, we're in ditch board. Brad, are you with us? Brad, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep, we can now.
Okay, good.
So wherever you would like to start at.
Okay, so I visited with Dana and he is going to finish. He didn't think he'd get to it the end of this week, but end of this week, first part of next week. I visited with him yesterday. So it's really only about a day's worth of work too, when he gets there. So that will finish up the, and then I'll put together the final change order and the final pay request and get that submitted to you. And we'll close that project out.
Cool.
So that's what we're looking at with the
He wanted another $1,500 for mobilization.
Yep, and another $1,500 to mobilize in that Vermeer wheel unit that he uses to chew those trees up.
So we went another 3,000 or another 15?
1,500.
Okay.
$100.
Yeah. I understand that. Wasn't his fault that he couldn't finish.
No, not really. Brad, did you have anything else before I start?
No, that's all I got to finish up that project. I understand you might have another one coming.
Yeah, so I didn't know if we were, Clay Creek needs to be cleaned again. So I didn't know if we would have Brad go out and do the engineering on it. And we fought for that FEMA money, so we better do something
Yeah.
before it gets too old. And Rod, do you understand how that's gonna work?
The FEMA money?
Yeah,
No, I didn't even know we got any. Is that
Well, we
for
didn't-
the ditch?
we didn't get the money. Remember when we were fighting, we had to prove that we were in charge of it,
Yep,
so we won.
okay,
So we need to submit the bill for the dike on the east side of the Meckling Road.
okay.
That was rebuilt, that culvert, I think on lateral 2.
Yeah, 2 culverts, one on lateral 2 and one on 3, I believe.
Okay, and then we need to figure out how we're gonna submit this bill for Clay Creek.
Okay,
when the
are
time
you thinking of having Brad do the whole thing?
I think so. We'll go
Yeah.
top to bottom and see where
Well,
we're at with money.
I guess I had it put on the agenda. I didn't realize you were gonna have Brad do it, but I drove it last Tuesday. And yeah, the only part I didn't get into was on the south end. I had permission to go drive along there, but I was already up north or to the west. But yeah, there's a lot of beaver dams from 313th Street down to the end of Dick and Gail Johnson's. Right where the Lewis and Clark pipeline goes under the creek. That's as far south as I got.
Okay,
And I don't remember that it's Patricia somebody, but Corey Lewison farms it and he gave me permission, but I never got back to go south, and it looked like there has to be one more there, but it's really backed up under our bridge on 315th Street. But I found about 6 beaver dams just by driving across the roads, and I drove clear to the county line, and right now is a good time to get out there. You can see all the sloughs, the low spot, their water's standing, but you can see what's in the water. So it'd be an excellent time if we could get it either flown with a drone or whatever to see. The only beaver dam they won't be able to see is under that bridge north of the landfill we closed because it's right under the bridge. I have no idea how we're going to get that out of there. Can't reach it with any kind of equipment.
so is that a bridge that's gotta come out?
Well, we have it closed, but it's on the list to be removed, but that other one over there south on Manning's Bottom, we've been working on that for 3 years and supposedly it's supposed to come out after the first of the year, but I haven't heard any more about that. So it's on the list, but I don't know how many years until it comes out. For sure.
Okay,
But yeah, that Clay Creek, I was surprised how much water is backed up from down there by the old Bremer place, Fisher's Curve back to the north, for sure.
so yeah, Brad, if you could, do what you can. If we're lucky, we'll get it done this fall. I mean,
Yeah, I can.
the engineering part of it.
Well, I think if Brad was to look at it and give us an estimate
Yeah,
for like his end of it, we could submit that first. And then the work part of it, later, at least it shows them you're doing, attempting to get something done there.
Okay. Cause then if you were able to get that done this winter, we could at least put it out for bids during the winter for to maybe, if, depending on how high the water is, it could be a first thing next spring that they could start working on it.
Yeah, I think if somebody come in, took the beaver dams out of there, there wouldn't be much water backed up anywhere, but I know that we can't get them. We could get one or two of them with our excavator, but the rest of, they're pretty deep sides on that creek, unfortunately.
Do you think there's any way we could get somebody in there to knock a couple of those beaver dams down? And get the state trapper there at the same time?
Well, if you can't do both. State trapper will tell you to leave them alone. Don't disturb the dams, and then he'll come in and trap them. If we take the dams out, then he is no use calling him. We don't want anybody to mess with the dams if he's coming down, and I have not called him. I got on my list, but thought I'd wait to see what you guys thought.
Well, the last time we did this, he had a couple other people with guns and they shot him as they were taking the dam out.
Right.
Or tried.
Right. And
So,
if, if, we're never going to get the beavers out of there, not with the river there,
no,
so to me, it seems like it'd be better to take the beaver dams out, get the water down. And, might have to do it once or twice, but if you got them out and when we find out when Brad could come out and do whatever, maybe we get somebody down there. I can kind of coordinate with him and somebody else with a long reach.
okay.
Sounds like I have permission there. We have permission all the way. That 315th Street, that's the county road that goes by Freeburg's hay shed. And that's where I found most of the dams, where most of the water's sitting.
Is that bridge at 315th? Is that the one that has the dam under it?
No, the 314th is the one
up.
that has the dam under it. It's a old dirt trail with the bridge closed just west of the Bluff Road, I don't know, half mile, and that's north of the landfill.
And that's one of those that's in that local federal bridge removal from last time, 2 years ago.
Yeah, I believe we got that one on the list, the last one we put on that list.
Okay.
But I can check with Cody to make sure.
So, and the plan would be to, and we can, is all the way to the county line to the Vermilion River?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, and the deal with the beavers too, you gotta kinda, we'll rip them out, but they come out like the very next night and we'll wanna build them again. So you gotta, we'll figure out a way to get those, you gotta either get them caught or get them shot.
I think that's
The
why
trappers, what they wanna do is, a lot of times they'll dig a little hole in the dam and then put a trap in there, and that's how they get them.
What was that, Dick?
Yeah, I think that's why Rod wanted to coordinate with him as far as getting in and knocking the dams down. So that Brad could have a good assessment of what ought to be done. Get rid of the water so he can see what he's doing.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
figured if we could get rid of some of the dams so Brad can see it, then we're just gonna have to deal with the dams until we get somebody in there to do the work, then worry about it. Or I can give the state trapper a call and see how busy he is. I usually know the answer to that question though.
Okay, what I can get, so I'll get things on my end, I'll get you a cost and all that. I will do it just like last time I thought, because that's the best, fastest, easiest, cheapest. And we'll fly that with a drone and do it that way. And that'll take me a week or so to get that all put together, and then we'll work out a plan.
Okay,
I have a question.
Mike,
Do we need to have to use the state trapper? Can we use another trapper?
I think we can use whoever we want.
I actually know a guy that traps over around Spink. I don't know if he's still.
Season, I think if it's trapping season, I don't think you have to use a state trapper. If someone will go out there and get them.
No, but furs aren't worth nothing. You can't get anybody to go trap them.
Okay, I didn't know.
Well, then that makes a difference.
Because we had that Tyler England up there on the Bolland Road. I don't know if he'd do it again. He did it up there on just the creek under the Frog Creek by our culverts. And, but they were still worth something then. It don't matter if you want to call the guy, I'm good with
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, I'll see if he's still doing it. He used to trap coyotes over on a lot of ours. But I haven't seen him this year, but I will give him a ring and see if he's still doing it.
Yeah, I give the state trapper a call too and see what. He's a little more fussy about what we do usually though. You don't want anybody to disturb anything so he can get in there, but
Okay. Rod, do you have anything else?
no, I actually just was gonna give you the same update Brad give you and bring this up. I didn't know you were gonna have Brad on there, so that's all I had.
Anybody have anything for Brad or Rod? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else for ditch board?
Prairie Center ditch. I wonder if we shouldn't look into bid and see some of that get cleaned.
Okay.
At least get a bid on what it start on it anyhow. 'Cause I know it needs to be cleaned out.
Do you need Brad to do anything, or do you guys just wanna?
I think we kind of just go ahead and get somebody a bid and just come and see what they think and go
Okay.
that way. I don't think we want to go with Brad, nothing against Brad, but
Yeah.
I don't think
Yep.
so.
You don't have to go through a bid if it's under, I think it's 50K.
Yeah.
You can get quotes.
Yeah. So yeah, if you want, I can I can go with Rod, talk to Rod, you can get somebody to go out and take a look at it and see what.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly what we have for money right now.
I can look that up for you.
Yeah. The other thing is, last year we fixed that on Prairie Center, the culvert at that time.
Yep.
Well, then the township fixed one over on further over there where Boo Boo's got the farm over there. They that all went down again. It's in the middle of the road, but it's in the township road. I think Rod remembers that they went over and put up, they just put cones around it now. It's not good. It was on the end of last year. Now it's right in the middle of there, but it's their road.
So they didn't fix it.
No, they fixed the spot, but not on back.
They didn't
Well, I
fix the
knew-
problem.
Yes, I knew that was gonna be it. Because it didn't look good then, but it's whole probably about that big right now.
And they're gonna leave it open all winter?
I don't know. I called Joe, my brother Joe had seen it. And we called Joe Hubert last week and they knew about it. And they went and put about 4 cones around it, which is not exactly a fix.
No.
I'd be,
Not
I
this
went
time of
over and
year.
took a look at it. And there was actually trucks hauling by it. Which I don't think I did.
That thing is undermined.
Yeah.
It's not just,
No,
it's not a cylinder straight down.
no, and I got out and looked and it looks like it goes like that.
Yeah.
It looks like there's, like a cave. If you crawl down, you could go either way. I mean, I wouldn't crawl down, but I mean, that's what it looked like. So I don't know, but they know about it. So it's not really ours. I know the other time they were reluctant, they said it was that it should have been the Prairie Center ditch culvert. Said, no, you have to have one across the road there. It's crossing the road. And it's in an intersection, It's not like where the one that where the Prairie Center ditch fixed was actually going across the road. It would have never needed to be there if it wasn't for the ditch. I get that. I don't get that one though.
Mike, to answer your question, there's 32,900.
Okay. Well, I can get with Rod, get some people, so, okay, that's all I had.
Anything else for ditch board? Hearing none, take a
Motion
motion.
to come out of ditch board.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Packard,
yes,
Mochler.
Yes, we're in regular session.
Thanks, Carrie.
Andy, are you on?
Yes, I'm here.
Wherever you'd like to start at.
Let's see, what do we have? Jail and car. Easiest thing get passed first is the jail bid. These are the same specs as last year. I spoke to Colin from Pizza Ranch. They have the current bid. He said that he intends to bid again. We'll also make sure that Ivy and other past bidders are aware of them. I haven't changed anything but the dates. I checked with Colin to see, and I usually do this every year with whoever has the bid, see if there's anything in the specs that seems prohibitive, and he had no concerns with these specs again. So I would just recommend that we advertise these bid specs, looking at an opening date. I think it's in there, December 28th.
It looked good to me.
Take a motion to do this.
I'll make a motion to put the jail bids out as they are written.
Second.
And to be opened on the 28th.
Yes, and be open on the 28th. Thank you.
Yeah, that'll be short notice for them. We probably should have done it a month ago, but these last 2 months always kind of get by you with a busy time.
Yep.
That's as soon as we can get it done.
I don't think that's gonna be a problem for them.
No. So you got that, Carrie? Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Packard,
yes,
Mochler.
Yes, motion approved.
Okay, and then moving on to the cars. Again, I use specs that we've used in previous years. If you recall, the last few years, we've been experimenting with the hybrid SUVs. And what we found is that they do get better mileage. They do cost more. But the cost difference is about $2,100 for a hybrid engine versus a non-hybrid. Looking at just comparing the most recent gas motor versus the most recent hybrid car, we're seeing about a 5.5 to 6 miles per gallon savings on the hybrid. Looking at, and it really depends on the use of the car. We've got, say for example, our school resource officer doesn't put as many miles on as the patrol deputies. But if I look at an average mileage or usage of the vehicles, I think that at $3 a gallon gas, we probably save about $1,000 a year on gas on the hybrid, using the hybrids. I've asked the deputies what they prefer. The ones that are assigned hybrid cars and are used to them say they don't care. They don't like them. They don't dislike them. It's irrelevant to them. The ones that are not assigned those cars, when they get in them to drive them, because they do have to switch cars, they don't like them because it's weird. And but there isn't a performance issue. It's just a matter of preference. So that said, it's going to throw it up to you that if we current plan is that starting this coming year, our intention is to budget for 1.5 cars a year, replace one year and 2 the next year, which means we'll run those cars for about 6 years. And so so over the course of 6 years, we should save about $4,000 if we had a hybrid. At the same time, we don't know what the long-term maintenance issues are going to be with those hybrids over the course of 6 years. I talked to Donnie Stewart. He said that the hybrid engines aren't new really, just for law enforcement use. They've been running the Ford Fusions for years with hybrid engines, and he's not seeing any issues. But we do stand a risk of maybe some expensive battery replacement or other repairs years down the road when we start getting in that 150,000 mile range or something like that. Fact is, I just don't know. And the only way we're going to find out is to get there. So If you want to save the gas, then I guess I'd recommend the hybrid car for the gas savings at a greater cost per purchase. Otherwise, if you want to play it safe and stay with gas motors and see how the hybrids last over their lifetime, that's fair enough too.
Sounding as though once officers are used to them,
Yep.
they're fine. It's just the
Yeah.
ones that aren't used to them. And that seems to be true of most things. So I would recommend going with the hybrid and get them used to it.
Yeah, the preference of the deputies seems to be that it's really not an issue. They'll get used to it if they're assigned to it, and the more of them we have, the more everybody will get used to it. I really don't see that as a factor. I think it's really going to come down to saving the gas versus any concern, and that's all we have. It's a concern that there might be higher repair costs as they get high mileage, but we'll find that out in a few years.
How many of the hybrids do you have now?
They have 2 hybrids right now, with a gas engine in between them. I think that let me take a quick look here. The oldest one we have is a 2020, and it currently has 35,000 miles on it. I'd like to say it's had no issues, and it really hasn't, but it has, because an installer for some equipment drilled a hole in a wire, a major wire, and caused considerable damage. I actually have a bill here for $6,700 that will be paid, or has been paid, by that installer, not the county, not our insurance. So that's taken care of. You can't blame that on the car. And but other than that, we haven't had any issues with that car yet. But it's new, 2 years old now.
So do you have a date for opening the bid on the car?
Yes, I think it's the same date, 28th.
Okay.
And I really don't have any objection to the hybrid. It's $2,000 more, $2,100 more. This is based on state. The state bid price is what I'm looking at, because Vermillion Ford hasn't bid it yet. They always bid. They have the option of honoring the state contract, and we can buy them without even advertising from them. But they've never met the state contract before, so we don't know what their price is going to be. But we do have the state contract for comparison, and but that's the difference on the state contracts, $2,100. One other thing on our specs, I've always had white on the car color, just what we've always done. There's nothing deliberate about it, other than that's the way we've always done it. The deputies are talking about changing car colors, and there's a tan color that Donnie Stewart says is a stock color that costs no more. And personally, I haven't made a decision yet. And but then again, just because we've always done it that way is not really a good reason. So the argument was made that the cars won't look so dirty if we go to the tan color. So I really have no objection, but I don't want to jump in with both feet without giving it some serious consideration. So I talked to Donnie yesterday and asked about that. And he just recommended we amend the specs to something about standard factory colors, to something to that effect, so we don't. So it's all the same to him. They have the state contract has 4 color options, and but tan isn't one of them. So but Donnie had said that he could get us a tan car at the same cost as white. Is not an issue for him. So if unless you guys think no, we need to stay with white cars, I would just recommend that you allow me to adjust that language to allow for different color options at that same cost.
Yeah, I mean, my only question would be whether visibility matters, because I think a lot of places choose white because it's just more visible for safety purposes. And I don't know.
Yeah,
What are your thoughts?
That's one of the reasons I hesitate. Well, that, and it'll take us several years to transition to a new color. So I have a concern there. At the Highway Patrol, that the reason that there's 4 color options on the state contract is the Highway Patrol uses all of those, and they have random colors, as you've probably seen them around, and I don't know if that's avoid being visible or to, because they just don't care. I really don't know. We run with light bars. We do mark the cars. I like them visible. I like colored light bars. It's harder to get those. They tend to have clear lenses now. I've always liked red and blue lenses so you can see them even when they're not lit up. I always want people to see our cars as best we can. And so that's one of the reasons I'm hesitant. So I don't mind. I'm a traditional sort of person. We've always had white cars. I'm happy to keep doing it that way because that's what we've always done. But then again, I don't want to be locked into that just because that's what we've always done. And in some sense, I think, you know, maybe the only reason I'm seriously considered is employee morale. This is something they've asked. And if I don't care, then why not? There's a lot of factors to consider there. And I honestly just have not made a decision in my own mind yet.
So we can change the color on the bid specs.
Yeah, that's what Donnie recommended, is not specify a color and just have, you know, the factory color. So then when we place the order, we choose the color.
Sounds rational.
Canary yellow.
Yeah.
Neon green.
Neon green.
I'm not seeing them the way I should. Right?
What's
I think
wrong
the
with purple?
control actually-
You know?
I think the highway patrol actually lets the officer getting the car choose the color. And because I don't know, it's just not a factor to them, or maybe they like having the cars look different. I don't know. I don't know their purpose for that, really.
Yeah, you gotta, I mean, if you gotta understand, we could have what, 9 different colored cars if we.
Yeah, well, that I would want to transition and stick to it. But it would take, we would have 2 different, right now we have one dark car, one dark brown car. That would be the car going out next year, but we intend to keep it. These specs don't call for a trade-in because we intend to keep that car. And that was something I did several years ago with the former chief deputy. And the intention was to put him in an unmarked car and have him do investigations. We've just found it's very difficult, which is why we've added an investigator and to have the road deputies doing the investigations too. So that hasn't caused us a problem. When in the last few years we did mark that car. It's got different colored graphics because it's a different colored car, but we've been doing that. I haven't heard a word about it from the public, not a word. Nobody says anything. And so I don't know, you know, we could spend a lot of time thinking about things and I don't even know if it matters, but you know, so we just got to decide if it matters to us. It seems to matter to the deputies, so I was considering it on their behalf. Whatever you can do to keep your good people here. It seems like a small issue.
I'd say do what you think is best, Andy. And on the hybrids, you know, we have a hybrid. It's not a Ford, but it's got about 120,000 miles on it. No issues at all with that. But the part that startles me, having normally driving a conventional car, is when the darn thing starts and stops by itself.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure that during while an officer is sitting, you know, someplace and the air conditioner calls for, or the heater calls for something, it'll just start and stop all by itself.
Yep.
And that's a little, it's not really irritating, but you do notice that it's different.
That's what they say. They notice it, they get used to it, and it's not an issue for them anymore. You know, when we're going down the interstate, we're always running the gas motor.
Yeah.
And we really only find it at very low speeds in parking lots and things like that, that's running on the electric motor alone, although maybe that electric motor's in play on the highway, because I'm just really surprised that we're seeing a mileage difference, because for most of our usage the gas motor's running. And it's really just moving the car as you start to pull out of a parking space. And then as you start off from a stop sign, usually by the time you get across the street accelerating, it's already kicked on the gas motor. And so I was kind of surprised to see a mileage difference. So maybe the electric motor is assisting even when the gas motor is running, and that helps us with the mileage. So, you know, at first I looked at 6 miles per gallon and thought, well, that's not an issue. But then when I did the math versus compared to the amount of miles we put on in a year and at the cost of gas, $1,000 is $1,000, you know, in a year. So, and that's, you know, depending on the assignment of the car, you'll see less. If a school resource officer's chief deputy's driving that car, you'll see less savings because they drive it less. And, but if the road deputies are driving it, they're gonna see more savings. The highway patrol, my understanding is really liking the hybrids, and they're ordering more and more often, and they're seeing quite a bit of savings. I think, you know, they sit a lot, and they sit in the medians a lot, and they drive a lot. So I don't think that they have as much urban driving as we do, driving in town, but they park in the medians and they drive on the highways, and that's pretty much what they do. And these hybrids are pretty well suited for that.
Yeah, the biggest difference in mileage is driving in town. I irritate the devil out of Sarah, my wife, by hypermiling. You know, it's got a graph that tells what mileage you're getting instantaneously all the time, and what you had minute by minute. And I play a little game of hypermiling, and so I don't drive as fast as she'd like me to a lot of the time. And it does make quite a difference, especially in town. You know, you get 50 miles a gallon in town, which with a gas car, you know, you end up with lower gas mileage in town.
Yeah, I think looking at the hybrid, the best mileage I've seen on it was 24.17 on a tank full several weeks ago. But they go down. I'm looking at some notes. The lowest I saw was just under 21 miles per gallon. This is you know, based on tank fulls.
Yeah.
Where the gas motors, if it's just putting around town, you could get in 10, 11 miles per gallon, as low as that, or as high as 18 or 19 on the gas motors. Just depends on the usage.
Yeah.
So it's a little more consistent with the hybrid motors.
Yeah. You know, 50 is what it says. It's a Prius, and that's what they say they get is about 50 to 55. But on doing tank measurements, it's doing about 40 to 45, which is excellent. I'm happy with that. But
personally, I try to avoid having that display on my screen while I'm driving, because you want to look at it. And
yeah.
fuel consumption, it's distracting. So
Yeah. Understood. Understood. Yeah.
Anything else, Andy?
no, I guess you just need to approve the specs for one or the other of those cars. And it sounds like everybody kind of approves the hybrid, and then advertise those. Carrie will advertise those.
Should we approve the specs for both of them?
You know, I think that we could make the decision now. I mean, it's just going to be the same $2,000 difference.
Okay.
Time as it is now. And I think that if we want to pursue the better mileage, we just as well do that now. And so Donnie doesn't have to work up two bids.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like Dick, I've had a lot of experience with hybrids, and they are trouble-free. You know, my what do you call it?
Hypermiling.
Hypermiling record is 69
Ooh, cool.
miles per gallon. But you have to be going like from Hy-Vee to my house to get that.
You ever put out the door too?
No.
That's called the Fred Flintstone.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. But they're efficient. They work incredibly well. I think Andy, you're right. There's a very, very minor getting used to it issue. But once you get used to it, it's really easy. And I also think that for patrol cars, especially, that will often sit in one place for a period of time, writing reports or whatever in the winter, and you got that, you know, heat running, you know, you get a lot of savings there.
And you know, the getting used to it part is really more of I guess a mood about it, or a perception. It's not a safety factor. And if
Right,
it was
exactly.
a safety issue, I would have a problem with it. But I can't say it's not safe.
Yeah.
If you're not used to it. You don't have to do anything different.
So-
I'd say move to approve the hybrid model.
Second,
With a bid opening of
December 28th.
December 28th.
9:40. Yeah.
Okay.
You good with that, Dick?
Yeah.
And if you would allow me to change the one sentence in there that Carrie's got the copy, I'll address the color. to give us some wiggle room, and we'll fine tune, we'll decide on the color when we place the order.
Certainly.
You're still good with your second, Betty?
Yep.
Good. So I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes,
Smith,
Yes.
Packard,
Yes,
Mochler.
Yes, motion passes. Anything else, Andy, or anything for Andy?
I don't think I have anything for you, but I'm here if you need me.
Yeah, we'll just have a quick question when we get the license renewal.
Okay, all right, I'll hang out.
Lane,
Excuse me. I believe Carrie sent you the MOUs for all of the counties in our region. This is just a continuation. We put this together 5-6 years ago. There's new people, new administrations throughout, so just decided to redo it again. But since it does kind of allocate all county resources, or potentially, figured it better go to you guys to get signed. So
I'll move to approve.
Feel like you're buying property there with all those signatures.
yeah,
I think there's 9.
Phillips moved. I'll second it.
oh, Phyllis moved. Okay.
Oh, I didn't hear. Okay.
Go ahead.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes,
Smith,
Yes.
Packard,
Yes,
Mochler.
Yes, motion passes.
get wires cramped.
Yeah. Lane, do you have anything else?
that's it. Other than there's 9 copies that you need to sign, please.
writer's cramp.
One a week.
Yeah, okay.
What is it?
Let's see, vouchers and payroll. Did everybody get to see those?
No,
There was no payroll this time, was there? Or-
well, I see the
Yeah.
payroll,
Yeah, there was payroll, but no.
no vouchers. I didn't see the vouchers.
I didn't see any vouchers.
I
Did they
see the
not
payroll.
Am I
attach?
wrong?
Maybe I missed it.
I didn't see any.
I didn't either.
Huh. Did my email not go through? Well, let me resend those and see what's going on here. I don't know. I don't know why it didn't
We'll
go.
wait till the end on those.
Okay.
See what. Liquor license renewal for Wimps and Toby's. Andy, is there any concern on your part?
All right, just give my camera back on. No, these businesses have kind of taken to closing early. Over time, they don't tend to stay open late. We don't have any reports or suspicions of any inappropriate or, serving of underage people or staying open late or any of the violations that would affect their licensing at either place over the past several years. So no, I have no objection or no reason to deny.
I'll move to approve Toby's and Will's.
A second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes,
Smith,
Yes.
Packard,
Yes,
Mochler.
Yes, motion passes.
I hear some tones playing over there. Does that mean that the email's going through?
Yep.
Okay.
There's 2 invoice edit, vendor invoice edits.
That's what there should be
Okay,
in the payroll. Yep.
okay.
I don't know why that didn't go through yesterday. Ooh, and Travis, you don't have your laptop. Do you want a printed copy?
I've got my
I
phone.
can, okay.
Because there's just the payroll in this one. Is that what I'm looking at here?
Yeah, that's for next year.
Yeah, that's next year's payroll.
Or not, well, I mean, this is payroll I meant, because this is
Oh,
to Norway and Bethel and all.
that was the last round.
Oh, that was part of the
Yep.
minutes.
That's
Okay.
part of the minutes. Yep.
Okay, no, I've got my phone. So we've got the HVAC report.
Oh, boy.
Did everybody get a chance to look through it? I mean, is this something we can discuss today or?
Yeah,
Okay.
Pretty thorough.
Yeah, I had to look up what some of the gadgets were.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what some of that stuff was either, to be honest with you.
Diagrams online.
Yeah,
that's the tough part. is-
the diagrams, yeah, pretty, I did in the paper, yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
But I figured I didn't need to know that part of it that bad.
We're hoping that part anyway.
What's that?
We're hoping we didn't need
Really, I mean,
much about that.
I didn't figure I had to be an
So-
expert on that.
So one question I have is which parts of this are allowable under
Mhm.
COVID funds? And certainly the ventilation would be. Would any other part of these specifications be eligible for outside funding? And we did approve that $2,000 for a company to help with these questions. So it might be wise to send all of these to that company and ask, which of these projects we could get funded through COVID money. And then the other question would be what the balance is in our courthouse repair fund.
I was just looking at that yesterday and I can't remember what the number was.
Approximate? I mean, are we looking at half, a quarter?
Oh gosh, I think we probably have probably 2/3 left.
Okay, so 750,000.
I'm gonna say
That'd
that's
be
probably
3/4.
close.
Right, thank you. 670,000.
I mean, yeah, I think it's probably pretty close. I just looked at that yesterday too.
Okay.
I wouldn't think you'd have over about 600 at the most, because you have the roof on there, right?
The roof, the tuck pointing,
Yeah, I thought that was close to
big.
300 to 400, wasn't it?
That's here.
Can't remember exactly, but wasn't it like 300,000 to 400,000 when you got that all
It
done?
was way less than,
yeah, it was like
we thought
90,000
it
for
would
the
be.
Oh,
roof.
okay, well, yeah.
Like right around 60, was it 65 or 66 for the tuck pointing on this building, and then the tuck pointing on the safety center was, like 2/3 of about 17,000. And then
Yeah, the roof's in
I
there.
think there,
Yeah, the total for the roof contract at least was 92,300.
and and at some point, something was mentioned about the facility manager position
coming out of
coming
there,
out of
yeah.
that. So depending what the salary is for that when that
Yeah.
person's hired.
Yeah, so,
Probably safely say you have 500,000 in there. for
yeah,
sure.
that's what
yeah.
it sounds like to me. So, it seems to me that the no-brainer is the ventilation system. From reading this report, it does look like what we've got here is a sick building. That's what they call them when there's, no ventilation whatsoever. So that, I mean, to me, that seems like the no-brainer. It'd be great to get a new HVAC system, particularly since we've got fan coil unit problems. And some, the units that are from 1991 are a real problem. And the savings in terms of, I didn't calculate what I don't have the numbers to calculate what the payback would be, but the EPA says that if you replace boilers that are as old as this one, and HVAC systems as old as this one, the payback period is, years, somewhere around, I don't know, depending on the building, 5 to 8 years. So it makes long-term sense to do the big job. But, we're going into a really, really rough year. So I guess, the other question I would have is to what extent can these issues be sequenced, and where are there savings for doing them all at once? So, yeah.
I guess I would go back to what you said earlier, instead of diving into this so much today, because we need to find out from that person exactly what covers underneath.
Yep.
If we paid $2,000 for them, let's use them.
Yep.
Because I don't know what all covers under that. Because, once we find that out, then it makes it a little easier to figure out what we're going to do.
Yeah, because just to get the ventilation, it's gonna be about 900,000.
Yeah, I know. Well, I think I figured out, well, you said about
No,
1.6,
1.225 million.
and I
for-
come up with 1.36.
That's for everything
You
that I
include
saw there.
That's to do everything, yes, but
That's-
just do the ventilation.
Yeah, just the ventilation would be a fair amount less. That'd be like 150K.
Yep. Yep. And to me, it looks to me as though, just from the paperwork that Carrie sent us a while ago, that we can consider the ventilation system free in some sense. I mean, that is going to be covered by COVID money. So, we start our accounting process with the next thing down the line, which to me would be a HVAC system replacement, which would have, real payback. And we certainly could possibly afford that, particularly if, any of it is covered in, by COVID money. And, things like a sprinkler system, I mean, I think that's really important in a public building, particularly one of this value, but this may not be the year to do it. It could be that that's something we look at next year.
How much does even the ventilation system depend on other portions of this, the general work allowance and the electric distribution, et cetera?
I think it's freestanding because it includes the required electrical, Phyllis. So I think it could be freestanding, but that would be a good question to ask.
Mhm.
Just
This is Alexis. I think that's a good question too, because anytime we start doing things that messes with power, it really, really troubled me to dating all the way back to when our office got rewired in that section and we took a circuit away from Ina's office. And I just had no idea until that. And to my knowledge, that hasn't been replaced or anything. It's extension cords that provide power to her office. When we're that short, or a portion of her office, I should say, when we're that short, on being able to provide necessary electrical and we start putting new systems in, I think that that's extremely important and a really good question to ask just regarding that. The other thing I was going to ask, and Carrie, I don't know if you know the answer to this. I was just looking at the specifications. I mean, how detailed is this? And I definitely think our bathrooms need ventilation, but I'm just looking at the mock-up here and definitely it looks like some of this on the second floor is going to run right through my office. So I'm wondering, I mean, is that like a build out then that comes where they install I mean,
It's a hose.
There's it depends what we do. The engineer explained it to me as like they can take one route and it has like minimal disruptions to like our visuals, the things that we see. Or they could take another route that uses more duct work, and then in that case, they would have to run them through the public hallways and things. And so you would either see that or they put in a false ceiling so that you don't see that. And it's kind of, a trade-off in that situation where you either have that exposed duct work in, the ornate hallways or you cover it up.
So like when I'm looking at that map of the second floor mechanical remodel plan,
I mean, it's not 100% accurate anyway, just because it doesn't show the doorway connecting from, you know, our reception area then into the back offices, and doesn't show that back office in the corner walled off between Sam and what will be Caitlin's office. So some of that isn't, and I don't know that necessarily matters, or maybe it does when it comes to ductwork and things and ventilation for each of those individuals' offices. But then right there, there's a blue box and a red box, like a blue rectangle and a red rectangle. And that's right in my office on the back side of the elevator shaft. So if that's, you know, the one says extended exhaust duct to restore and or general space.
To restrooms.
Yeah, to restrooms. So I'm just wondering, like, I think that doorway there, that's way closer to that end of the wall. So if you section off another chunk of wall to put ductwork up there and cut into the office, I don't think there's a whole lot of space there. There's a space right now for a chair, for a little chair that goes there. I mean, that would butt right up against the doorway. Anyway, so you don't get the impression that that blue rectangle and that red rectangle are, I mean, is that going into the bathroom then, or?
I'm not sure, to be honest, and
Those look like the ductwork that are gonna run up between the floors.
Okay, so like my desk is at that spot right now.
Right, so there'll be a bump out.
Okay,
I mean, that's the way they've got it drawn.
that's my impression as well. And so that bump out, like where that blue line goes across, I would say that's where the start of the door frame actually is. I mean, there is not much space there. That door on this design is not
It opens their own.
nearly halfway through the wall there, the way it's depicted here.
Are they using an older floor plan? Is that what happened before we did those remodels in
Yeah.
your area?
And
That's the issue.
It would be earlier than even my time, because it would be like, there's no, that big corner office, if you will, that's sectioned into two, and that predated me.
and I
Yeah, 'cause they're not
don't
showing
remember.
you-
I'm guessing that I gave them the blueprints to the building, and I don't think we have updated blueprints
Right.
for some of these things that have been changed.
No, but they had to be here, and notice there was another door put in
And walls.
and walls.
And
Anyway,
I'm gonna-
I just throwing that out there for whatever the
Yeah.
cost assessment of that is.
Sure.
Yeah,
And
And I'm
whether
gonna-
they noticed that or not is what elevation they flew over. Is the way I often put it. Is that, what kind of detail did you look at? What height did you overfly this thing?
And I'm gonna guess that they intend that to be like, a bump out into your office, because he did say that, like in my office in the corner where we already have the pipes running, that's where they would try to run things so that we could either build it out to cover those up or just have them there like they are now where they're visible. And so I'm gonna guess that's.
So
what
the
they're
red line will
thinking.
be visible. The ducts that run, the
Mhm.
ductwork that runs the offices. And that's gonna block that top window on everybody's office.
oh, yeah. Into the
Yeah.
hallway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
And that's not something that we use.
It should be, if this
Anyway,
thing
but-
works the way it's supposed to, they should never be used again anyway. I mean, ventilation, it's a ventilation window.
Yeah. And then they're never used anyway. I
But
don't know. And
is the public gonna have a fit?
And he talked about wanting to use the fan coil units, to keep the costs down. And I had a lot of reservations about that. And I told him that because we have dealt with mold and rust and, leaks and things that just,
Yeah, I think option two,
Continuously
the ventilation
happen.
System is the one to go, but
Yeah, I do too.
and we haven't gotten the bill yet from Louis for all the mold testing and, the repairs in the nurse's office and stuff. So.
Do we have a report from that yet?
It came back, everything came back fine except for a couple areas, and they went in and did some additional cleaning inside of those fan coil units and some mold fogging or whatever you want to call it, where they use kind of an airborne type of fogging system to get, basically treat all the parts inside that unit that they couldn't get to by hand. And then they also cleaned carpets in a few areas where they thought the spores would have settled into the carpets. And so we should be good at this point. Everything has been done.
Thank you.
Yeah, hopefully he had everything written down.
See, that came across my mind too, when I was reading through this report.
Yeah.
You start seeing all that stuff on the outside of the walls. So you're gonna see it. I'm wondering how the Historical Society is going to be interested in seeing all that. I mean, I really do.
It's the preservation.
That's what I mean, the
That one.
preservation.
Yeah, I mean,
That
I'll
came
just,
across
I will just speak as a former chair of the Clay County Historic Preservation Commission and a member for almost a decade. I think everybody understands when you fix up an old building, it's not going to be perfect. And there is nothing in Secretary of the Interior's rules that disallow interior renovation. In fact, it's virtually the only way to keep an old building usable, right? Is to do interior renovation. And so, I don't think anybody is going to object. It'd be wise as the planning goes through to present plans to the commission to invite, a co-meeting or something, and get some input from them so that they know what's happening and we don't have a rumor mill going on in town. But I think they thoroughly understand that, and they brought that, I was not available at that time, but they brought in a historic preservation architect who's famous. And he looked around and said, yeah, you can do it without, you can modernize this building without destroying the integrity of the building. So, so I would say to, if we work with them, we should not have a problem. And we certainly don't have any problems whatsoever in terms of, the legal status of, preservation law. Nothing that's proposed here interferes at all with preservation law. Yeah, and I feel a really strong obligation to the people who work in this building to get the ventilation fixed ASAP. This would be a really, really tough place to, I see Drew's shaking his head. Yes, this would be a very, very tough place with no air exchange to work.
I have my windows open all the time.
Yeah.
In the summer, they're all the way open, and even in the winter, I gotta leave a crack, 'cause it gets in my voice, it gets in my coffee mug, it's funky.
Yeah, and once you have
Microphone.
mold issues in one part of a system, you have mold issues that you can't see in other parts of the system. For some people, it it's like it creates chronic illness. I mean, it's crazy. So, yeah, go ahead.
Phyllis, did you have something?
Oh, it was just, I didn't hear anything of what Drew was saying. I think it was
Just off
Drew.
my head.
He was just talking about how he's got his windows open year round.
Okay. Oh,
And he covers his coffee mug.
very good.
I have to wash it out with rubbing alcohol and get the mold to stop growing it. It holds up if I don't.
Well, I think we found the funky taste
I recommend a good washing from time, at least weekly.
Yes, oh yeah, I swap, I got.
Or add something else.
I think, for what's likely to fit into our budget would be work on the ventilation system and HVAC too. Really, the VRF or VFD driven circulation systems. That's what those letters mean. I think those are we really should go with the option 2 rather than option 1. In my experience from working with other similar systems, a lot of the newer style, especially if they know that there's mold and other problems with the existing fan coils, the newer design fan coils are a lot more resistant, at least, to the sort of issues we have in this set here. I've got my geothermal system out at my shop has 2 fan coils, so I can zone my building there. And that was an important part of that component, was getting fan coils that were well drained and well ventilated.
Well, so depending on how much COVID takes care of off this list, we can realistically do everything.
If we could do
Easily.
everything, that'd be super.
You know, minus LED lighting, I think, for right now.
Yeah,
Because it's not all, you know, there's a couple down here that's either or. Like for fire protection, there's 2 different options. And we don't need a fire alarm system if the sprinkler system's installed. So.
And I don't know how closely they were looking at our lighting because most of the lighting in the building is LED anyway.
yeah,
Like we've already done that. It's been done for years. So
yeah. We've
I
done
don't know.
conversions,
I
two
mean, what they
conversions.
did was basically, retrofitted the fixtures that we have, and maybe that's why they didn't notice. But it's LED, so.
But I think the other thing we want to do, so we don't run into the situation where I lost power because another office got upgraded or whatever.
Yeah,
We just have its own panel brought in and all new wiring from that panel for that system.
yeah. That would be mainly replacing this electrical distribution gear replacement. I think that is largely to solve some of those issues. In the back here, he says we had excess of about 60 something kW.
Yeah.
Main service, so we had 600 amps of spare capacity. So, that's in a range of, I don't remember I have to do the math on that. We're at 208 here. That surprised me.
That was that low?
208 volts instead of 240. I was a little surprised by that. Downtown Sioux City has 208, and there's a few towns that have 208, but
Well, I suppose depending on how far from the sub meter or substation.
yeah, it's designed. That's a design characteristic. Yeah, they said 208, and I don't know if they measured that. I've got my voltmeter outside. I typically do that when I'm retrofitting things in public buildings or commercial buildings. I always check that because I've been misled more than once. My guess is this should be 240, which is better.
I can speak to that.
Yeah.
The city of Vermillion actually uses a 208Y system.
Okay.
Because of the portable generator that we got through Homeland Security several years ago. Ours is completely different than everybody else's in order to fit into the Vermillion system.
Imagine that.
Thank you for that. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
It looks like a lot of those panels need to be replaced.
That's the idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm hoping they don't try and stub into existing panels or.
Well, they recommend to change the panels out, and I think that's probably a good thing because it looks like we got them all over the place and not really. Don't know what runs on. That's where, they're estimates, I understand that, but you don't know what you're gonna run into when you get into some of this either.
Well, that's the $125,000 work allowance.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what I mean. Right. Exactly.
Dick Strasberg said too that, if you guys decide which part of this you're interested in doing, or if you want to go for all of it, they can have those numbers vetted out, more thoroughly and stuff too, to see where they're at. I mean, at this point, they're kind of estimates, but.
So are we gonna send that list to Heidi Bailey?
I think so.
I think that would be wise. I mean,
You need
for me to
find
say
out
that
what
something
we-
qualifies, like, I don't feel comfortable with that. That's why I suggested that we sign on to that contract, because this is a lot of money that we don't want to have to pay back.
Exactly.
And I think that we should go ahead with the telecom cabling too, to upgrade from our existing cabling is a
Really?
good move.
You don't like that?
Well, compared to what, apparently we're having some issues with our existing stuff there. I can't imagine how it could be all either Cat 5 or greater, but with the kind of problems we've had, but
It is Cat 5. I remember going through this when we were looking at a phone system before. And I remember our IT provider then, and that was before Erickson, saying that really they would recommend rewiring the whole building because not only was it becoming outdated, but it was really patched together. And I think Erickson's has done a really fantastic job of working with that patching together and trying to, improve what we have, but they can only do so much too. So,
should we get them involved on that design part?
yeah, I think we
They
should.
need.
yeah. Sarah, again, when I wired my own building, I went with all Cat 5e, but for a building like this, Cat 6 is what we want.
Anything else on the? So we can't move forward until we find out what we can do.
Get some more answers, yeah.
Okay. Contingency transfer resolution.
So let's see, I think the fund transfer resolution is just our normal budgeted fund transfers that we do each year. And the contingency transfer is those budgets that are, falling short at the end of the year. I am going to be advertising for a budget supplement hearing for the bigger things. The jail budget supplement for the inmate boarding, the courthouse things that we've done with that building money. We didn't budget for that last year, obviously, so we need to do a supplement for that. There was a highway bill that was services from last year that we paid this year, so that money wasn't spent last year, but we'll have to supplement the expenditure budget for that. So the bigger things, we'll have a supplement hearing in December for that. These are just the easier contingency items.
Motion to approve resolution 2021-29.
29 or 28?
28.
29.
28.
Well, I thought the fund
28 is the fund transfer, so you
Yeah.
Okay.
either or whatever.
You do 29 first.
Whichever order you want to do it
I
in, it
missed it.
doesn't make a difference to me.
Go ahead, I was looking at the wrong one.
I'll second it. On 28.
I'm 28.
Okay. So I have a motion and a second. And that amount is for from the general fund for $658,105 to the highway fund and $30,482 to emergency management fund.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hammond.
Yes.
Manning.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Packard.
Yes,
Mochler.
Yes, motion passes. Now to 29.
I'll move to approve resolution 2021-29. Transfer of funds for honest anticipated expenses for the current budget year for commissioner contingency plan fund budgeted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hammond.
Yes.
Manning.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Packard.
yes,
Mochler.
Yes, motion passes. 2022 payroll approval.
Move to approve.
second,
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, just to be clear, the rate of increase for employees was how much?
2%.
2%. And that includes all employees, 2%,
The
'Cause-
department heads were 5%.
5%.
Yeah,
Okay. And the commissioners are
those were 2 as well.
2 as well.
Any further discussion?
I had one question too about this, and it probably doesn't. How come when I go down here under and this would probably be for Rod, but I don't think he's on here now. You know, his highway department workers. How come, like, I thought he hired a couple of these people at the same time, like Mulhern and King, and they both got the same price, same one, but I thought Hvac came on at the same time also.
No, he's been here for.
He's been there for a
Yeah.
while. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
then-
ProFrac's been here for several years.
Okay.
The
he
other
has
ones are
it.
brand new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well then I was wrong. Cause that's because I noticed King and Mulhern were the same. But I thought Hvac came out at the same time, but I was the only thing I could think about is one had CDL and one did, the other two didn't, but that's not the case.
No.
Never mind. I'm done.
No, there was one that did come on at the same time as ProFrac, but I don't think he's here anymore. so.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning.
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Packard,
Yes,
Mochler.
Yes, motion passes. CCOG agreement for redistricting assistance.
Okay, I'll move approval.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Packard,
yes,
Mochler.
Yes, motion passes.
Thank you for that. By the way, this is going to be a big project. I wasn't involved in the redistricting 10 years ago, so I don't know. And we have a new system now for the voter registration, so this will be interesting.
Very secure, I trust.
Yeah. It's just going to be something new for everybody.
Yeah.
So payment application for the roof project, looks like it's $68,200. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yep. Beckenhauer felt that that was fine. They just verified this morning what is left on the roofing project, and they should be done by the end of this week. Looks like we're gonna have good weather, so
Did
Sure.
Beckenhauer's have a look or did they just use pictures?
they're
or-
coming up later this week just to make sure.
Okay.
But, communication and just what I'm seeing of, what they're getting accomplished out there. They were comfortable with that, so
So this is something we should,
they're over halfway at this point.
we should wait to approve them. Since they're not finished with the work, I mean, this authorizes to pay the full amount.
No.
No, it's
No,
not the
if
full
there's a
amount.
Full amount
whole
is
back of what,
92,000.
yeah, 24,100.
Oh, it's holding back.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
and
this is,
they're well on their way to being finished. I mean, they were here 2 Saturdays ago. They were here Black Friday. They
Mhm.
were,
Yeah, and this is just work from the last half of November. So,
yeah, this is a monthly submittal,
Okay.
Mhm.
so it should be okay for us to do it. The only reason we would not is that Beckenhauer's have not had a on-site inspection and approval yet, but from what I know about the company now, and we're probably okay to go ahead.
And Beckenhauer's has not been up here in person, but they've been pretty involved in, status updates and seeing what's going on. So they're comfortable with it. I'm comfortable with it. I feel like they're in a really good spot. They're going to be done by the end of the week. So
So when we approve this, then it gets paid, or does it come on the vouchers again then?
we can go ahead and approve, since you're approving it now individually, we go ahead and pay it today.
Okay. Because I have seen when we've done this, and then comes voucher time, it's on there again to be approved to be paid again. So does that mess anything up?
Mm-mm.
They don't
No.
get double paid or?
No.
Okay.
Right, I'll move approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Packard,
Yes,
Mochler.
Yes, motion passes. We have the memorandum of understanding with SDSU Extension Services.
And this one's a renewal of our annual contract with them.
I move to have the chairman sign it.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Packard,
Yes,
Mochler.
Yes, motion passes. The Joint Powers Solid Waste and Recycling Advisory Board. Is that something you had on, Phyllis, or?
no, I thought maybe you had it on.
I know I had a note from last time that I was supposed to put it on the agenda for today. And I think it was just kind of to approve that application that we
Oh,
were going to put out there
Oh,
and
okay.
any advertising. And I think Phyllis, you had a couple suggestions for that application and I did go ahead and change those things. So
okay.
it should be good now.
Looks good. Do we need to have any kind of formal approval?
Well, we need to know how long we're gonna put it out for. What's the cutoff date? Into January?
It could be open until filled.
That's good.
I'm
Okay.
a little hesitant on how much response we get over the extreme busy season here.
So we'll just advertise it and see what comes
Yeah.
along. Okay.
I'd say that, or have a mid-January cutoff or something.
We'll just leave it open-ended.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, and then. What else did I have there? With the planning and zoning, Jay's retiring at the end of the year. So we need to advertise for a replacement.
It's advertised.
It is.
Yeah, according to the paper, should have gone out last week.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. So
And it's up on the website too, my website.
applications are going to carry.
I can get a copy of it. It's on my website. I'll send it.
But I mean, when the applications
Yeah,
come in.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
All over it, Drew.
The opioid settlement, just to sign on, correct?
Yeah, and I did have an opportunity yesterday to speak to Tom Diedrich with the Attorney General's office. He's kind of managing this on their end. My understanding is most of the counties in the state are signing on to this. I just confirmed with him, this is not litigation. This is our agreement to not engage in litigation. So as far as, any attorney costs or some things we've seen on past inquiries about settlement and splitting fees, that's not what this is because we're agreeing not to sue. So that is something good. And then there are a number of situations, I guess, or factors that aren't really ironed out yet. This is really just those beginning stages of engaging in discussion about settlement with Johnson & Johnson. And I think there's 3 major distributors. He had to check again with how many distributors across the US have signed up, but we won't know for sure anything until February. Our deadline to sign on to this is January 2nd, but as indicated, we would be one of the later counties to respond to this. So, and it still is up in the air regarding reporting requirements. 85% of the settlements funds are supposed to go to remediation, but what that looks like and how much our county would actually get and all those things, we really probably won't know, but could be positively impacted. Some other things that he and I talked about were that, when we look at opioid related cases or something. And, you know, I'm not seeing that is impacting our county as much as methamphetamine. But if there's some of these settlement funds for remediation go towards things like regional treatment centers or something like that, we could still be positively impacted by that, even if we aren't seeing the funds directly. And that was really encouraging. So a lot of things up in the air because it's still just really signing on to discuss settlement. But as far as anything goes, I mean, we wouldn't have legal fees or anything to incur from this. So, so it was a good conversation. And I would encourage with that, that I don't have concerns about us signing onto this at this juncture.
So you'd actually recommend it?
Yeah, I think so. And I think, you know, I still am a little concerned about the reporting requirements, who's going to maintain that and how they're going to measure those things. But by the same token, it makes sense to me of even if we don't have high numbers to report for our county directly, it doesn't mean that we won't still be positively impacted. If we can get some chemical dependency treatment funds, local, regionally, I mean, anything like that, that's great. We need those.
It's a win-win.
Yeah.
I guess I'd make a motion then to sign on.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hammond.
Yes.
Manning.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Packard.
Yes,
Mochler.
Yes, motion passes.
So Kira, you still have that website info and everything from them to go enroll or register?
Yeah, I think I do. I think I emailed it to you.
Perfect. Yep.
Just sign away with it. Let's throw something in there, so
Yeah.
make it worthwhile for the rest of us.
Yeah.
Okay, joint jurisdiction. Anybody tune in last week?
I was there. So was
I read the paper.
paper's a little misleading.
Yeah, the paper.
Yeah.
I thought a little bit, not too bad,
Well,
not
the
too
paper
bad.
got insulted right away though. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it was,
Oh, yeah, yeah, but the
when
person,
that lady spoke up and said, well, nobody reads the plain talk anyway.
yeah. That was not probably a good line right there.
Yeah, anyway. I mean, I understand the reservations. There is just a philosophical, I didn't want to call it a gap because that's not small. That's not big enough. It's
Chasm.
difference of opinion is how things operate or it's too wide. I mean, we're not even on the same plane with the city. I'm having a hard time going into those meetings with them. I mean, their motion to deny that permit the other night was to deny the permit so we can rewrite the ordinance. I don't know how you rewrite it. I don't know how you tell the person we're going to deny your application so we can rewrite the ordinance so you can't do what you wanted to do that was allowed under the current ordinance. That's a problem.
That's the thing that got me was there was if you go into the joint one and you read it, the ordinance. And you go down all the steps, and you get down to the one where it's heavy industry, industrial. That's the only one that they've already put the grain handling into that. It's the only one that's options there. So you either have to pick heavy industry or you pick no. And basically and nothing against Jose, but what Jose was saying, well, let's table it and we'll rewrite it, like you said, and we'll rewrite it so that it's in agriculture.
That it's an ag business.
But that wasn't a choice. That's something, that wasn't what we were there for. We were there for to either make a choice of denying it or putting it in where it should have been. And they didn't do, and that wasn't, they didn't have a choice to rewrite it at that time.
Well, and this goes back to even when Nutrien applied. They
Mhm.
want to consider
Right.
ag opportunities and agribusiness.
Mhm.
We specifically define what a grain terminal is.
Right.
I mean, that used to be the name of the place. It used to be Terminal Grain.
Right.
In '87, they said grain elevators are heavy industrial. When the joint jurisdiction come along, they defined grain terminals as heavy industrial. They told us everything got changed on the zoning. Everything went back to agriculture in 2012. You know, not to sound like Maury Povich, but that's a lie. Because the other businesses, new to you, the one straight to the north of them where Olet's have their business, they got to keep their commercial designation.
Mhm.
Granted, the name changed. It went from a business E
General business to commercial.
to commercial, which was a lateral move. They're the only ones that we can find that their zoning got changed on. So even if the zoning notification was correct, I mean, the operation's already there. We made the motion to approve the application, because there were some things in heavy industrial that the people don't like. But we said, fine, we'll instruct staff to get rid of those things right now. Nobody wanted a packing plant there. I mean, they don't want packing plants in town, or even in the joint jurisdiction, or rendering plants, and there was a couple others. So fine, we'll just get rid of them. We won't even allow them. City doesn't want to take those out. They want to move the grain elevator into ag business. Well, under their definition of ag business, a packing plant fits. So are we going to keep redefining everything to make it fit what we want? I mean, we're not following the zoning ordinance.
Right.
I have no problem changing the zoning ordinance, but not in the middle of somebody's application.
No, I thought Marty came up with some, he was the one that said, well, then take out what you don't want.
Yeah.
And that was not any different than doing what he was saying, that we're gonna change it and put them into ag. I mean, but he didn't want that. They didn't want that.
No.
They wanted that. And I thought his idea was actually the best. Just, if you don't like the idea that there's a packing plant in heavy industrial, well, then don't have it there. I mean, it made more sense to me than anything else, but this wasn't the time to do it.
But they do that all the time.
I know, but you have to follow the ordinance at the time. You can't just all of a sudden pick and choose what you like and don't like.
But Nutrien, they wouldn't consider them an ag business.
I know.
And if they're not an ag business, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, it's even defined. Exactly what they do is exactly what our definition is. Storage of liquid and dry fertilizers.
Yeah.
I'm like, what else are they then? Nope, we gotta rewrite that.
That brings me up to the question, I see in the paper now, is it next week we have a meeting? Okay, but I didn't quite, is that a joint meeting? No, it's ours alone, right?
Yeah.
But we're having it at City Hall?
No, that's here. City Hall's having theirs the night before.
Yes.
I requested that we have that joint meeting because we need to be in the same room to have this conversation. Jose won't do that. He does not want us in the same room that first meeting.
Okay.
And the flow chart he shows me just says it's a suggestion that they have separate. It's just so we don't tie up everybody's time type of thing.
That
But-
whole chart is brand new. Nobody's seen that.
Yeah. And if they deny it, there's no reason for us to have any discussion on the following Tuesday because it's over.
No, because then there's still an appeal
To who?
to the both boards. And he has to do an appeal.
That's just another step. We should have been in the same room with them. The tail's wagging the dog over there.
I guess I'm to the point here when I go to those things like that, the joint deal is, I guess I would like to have somebody explain to me exactly what benefits we get out of being in this joint as a county. Because I can't see, this 50-50 deal is nuts. It doesn't help anybody.
No.
Because,
Yeah, I mean, I think the point of joint jurisdiction is only that, these are areas in which the city is likely to expand in the future. And if that happens, they would like, a say in what goes there, right? So, I think the city is looking, 25 years out and saying, okay, so when our boundaries shift and we annex this space, what's going to be there? Because if it's not consistent with, city land use patterns, then it's a future problem. So I don't think of it as an us versus them so much as I think of it as it's a cooperative deal, right?
there's a word.
that works hopefully for the future.
But
We've
I'm having trouble
we've
trying to
tried
think
for
about
10
it.
years. It is not, I mean, I've been in too many meetings where the city will bend that ordinance to whatever they want. I mean, they asked a guy if he had a garden, so they could consider him a farmer. So he could build another house on his property. It's like, no. That doesn't fit the ordinance. It's not what he is. These last two are huge. I have never fielded this many phone calls from potential businesses who go, why should I come to Clay County? Tell me why I don't go to Union and Yankton. And this is just since Kevin Myron's thing, the last week or so. I'm having a hard time telling them why they want to be close to Des Moines. I mean, the city doesn't need to worry about future expansion. I mean, we got people fighting housing, we got people fighting businesses. I think we're where we're gonna be. I don't see a lot of future expansion with the decisions that are being made.
I would agree with you, Betty. That's why they want to be in tail. I get that. I honestly do. But it's like everything. It's got to be a give and take. And from what I seen the other night, I didn't see any give at all. It was, they had one person on that zoning deal that actually seen it. Everybody else it wasn't happening. And a lot of it was the way it was presented to them. I think, it was presented to them that, and I mean, the words that kept coming out, well, they're gonna put a packing plant down there. I don't know how many times. I mean, that's like a scare tactic.
Well, it was because we finally had to get out of him that there's a conditional use permit
Right,
process you
exactly.
gotta go through for
Mhm.
most of the things people didn't want. He's
Right.
like, well, yeah, but
I know.
these things aren't gonna pop up overnight,
No.
And I found it entertaining that all they had to do to change the zoning was put it in the paper, but all the people next to Kevin Myron's rezone, they all got certified letters this time. To let them know that the zoning was gonna change.
Yeah.
That's because I did that.
That's fine, but I mean, it's amazing. Because that's in our ordinance, and that was in our ordinance before that needed to happen, but.
No, but getting back to my question there was, what is outside of working with somebody? What are we getting for an advantage? I'm not an advantage. What are we getting out of it? I don't want to say advantage because that's not what I'm after. I just want to see what exactly is the county getting out of it.
Yeah, I don't think it's for the county. In other words, a joint jurisdiction. I don't think it's for the county. I mean, I think it's for orderly growth of county and city. I mean, in other words, I don't think we can expect to get an advantage. I mean,
Well, I don't
the
expect
essence-
advantage.
What's our benefit?
excuse me,
benefit,
excuse me,
that's
that the essence of joint jurisdiction is saying that we will always have a discussion and give the city a say in this area of joint jurisdiction. I mean, I don't think it was ever intended to give anything to the county. It was always intended as something that gives something to the city, right? It gives them a decisive say in what happens immediately around their boundaries. I mean, I think the Kevin Myron case is a good example, right? Because, under the county, it would be really easy for us to say, all right, so we'll allow this to be a heavy industrial zone, but it's immediately adjacent to a place that the VCDC in the city spent a fortune developing. And those are residential houses. And so, there's a big group of people who have spent ungodly sums of money for housing there, and now find out that, it's going to be a heavy industrial zone next door. So, I think this is exactly the kind of problem that joint jurisdiction was created to solve.
Joint jurisdiction caused this problem because of the rezone. The people who live directly above the elevator, there's nobody that lives there that was there before the elevator was built.
Right, and the elevator has pre-existing non-conforming use status.
Yeah, and if it
So
burns down, it can't operate.
They
again.
can continue to run that business.
But he can't sell it.
Well, they could sell it. Yeah, I suppose couldn't they sell it for as exactly what it is?
No.
They can't sell it to a heavy industrial use, but they could sell it for precisely the same use they have now with the equipment and so forth that they have now.
Yeah, but they could sell it as, let's say, like the other one below the bluff, that got sold to one of the Heinz as their personal use.
Mhm.
Yeah, they can sell it as personal. use,
Exactly.
but they can't market it as a
Right.
grain terminal anymore to a company. And he did have that right before joint jurisdiction.
And if it burns down, he can't rebuild, whether he wanted to or not.
Yeah.
And now if he does get it rezoned, they want a conditional use permit on it. On something that's been there since 1967. I have a problem with people moving in and all of a sudden thinking, well, I spent this much money. Because they didn't spend more money than he spent on his location. And the VCDC didn't spend more money on that location than he did. And this doesn't come down to who pays more property taxes either. It's right and wrong.
But he cannot sell it right now. How can he? Because it's zoned as agriculture, but it's not zoned as.
What's that, Phyllis?
I was saying it's zoned as agriculture, so no. it
Right.
don't.
You
Yeah,
can't,
so-
because it's the only place that in the joint one is in the ordinance is in heavy industry, is the only place that it's actually got grain handling.
So,
And that's the
but-
only place he can be,
but
right?
true, if it's a pre-existing non-conforming use, it can be sold as is for the same use, right? It just can't be further developed.
Nobody's gonna buy it if it's not zoned correctly.
Right, but my question is though, that if somebody wanted to run that business, it could be sold as that business and continue to operate as that business because it's a pre-existing non-conforming use.
Yes.
So he doesn't get, what he doesn't get is, the ability to sell for a lot more money under a different zone.
Right. He doesn't get to sell it according to the terms he bought it.
Right.
And he'd like to get it back to something to the terms he had.
Got it. Thank you.
And as a business, are you going to buy if you are totally restricted in improving your business or expanding?
Correct.
You're eliminating his ability to sell, actually.
But getting back to joint jurisdiction,
Yeah.
the city gets, even if we got out of joint jurisdiction, the city gets plating and subdivision. They get to decide where the roads go. So. And there's plenty of people in the joint jurisdiction that are livid that they have to follow the city's rules. They moved out of the city for that reason.
So I didn't say much at the other meeting, but I'm just gonna share some thoughts with you all here regarding that. I think that's the quandary that comes about, is that when you have people who are governed by these bodies, and statute authorizes it, right? It authorizes joint jurisdiction. So we haven't done anything wrong by creating it. But I will say that it is frustrating and does seem a bit disingenuous when we come to meeting after meeting and business after business. There is this divide between the two boards, if you will. And the result of that is literally that nothing gets done. And so these folks who live and operate in joint jurisdiction don't get to vote in many times their city counterparts to this, but they're governed by them. And for instance, what I would have liked to have seen come fresh off that meeting was, if the goal of the city was, we need to redraft our zoning, beef some things up, take out these things in heavy industrial that we never want in joint jurisdiction. We never want a packing plant in joint jurisdiction because we never wanted that close to the city, right? That's, and like you guys pointed out very astutely, that I don't think it came across in that meeting. That was a scare tactic, because in order to even get a packing plant put into a heavy industrial zoned area, you've got to apply for a conditional use permit. And the same process we went through that the rezone got shut down, clearly the conditional use permit is going to get shut down. And if you want to even take that out of the equation to even be considered, then you come back to the drawing table, you revamp joint jurisdiction zoning, and you remove those things from joint jurisdiction that don't make sense, like that. So we don't even have to worry about it. So fresh off that meeting, if that's the solution, is, hey, we don't want to stifle his business, we just don't want it to mushroom into these other conditions and concerns, would have been to set up a meeting and let's get down to business. And that has not happened for how long?
We gotta finish this process out.
Well, but and I get what, so Phyllis, Drew said they can't yet, we've got to finish this process out. And I get that to a certain extent, but I mean, this has gone on, we've been talking about this for over a year. I mean, I can tell you with certainty over a year, probably longer than that, because we've been battling about this issue with joint jurisdiction for how long? And if there was serious discussion to be had on this, we need to be moving forward in some fashion, and we need to be updating those things. And, one of the things that I agree wholeheartedly with the county folks that have said it, you cannot lump this in under agribusiness. You can't do that because we have a grain elevator definition in our zoning. So you're going to have to update different definitions. That was not a solution to this. It cannot be a solution to this, is to classify this as agribusiness. It's like calling something a private campground when it's really public.
Just went through. Yes, I won't bring that up.
And so that's the thing, is that you can't do that when we specifically define it in our ordinance. If it's not specifically defined in our ordinance, then you can reach out and have a broader aspect to this. But once it's specifically defined, you may want it to be agribusiness, but that's not what our ordinance defines it as. Betty, you're absolutely correct that as long as someone continues to operate and doesn't have more than a year time frame where they don't operate, and that's where the kicker, I think, comes in. If business is not going well and they quit operating for a year, they're done. And so when it comes to selling that and what happens, the other term I did not like from that meeting, and I shared it with other members of our board, is I kept hearing people say, we need to go back. We cannot go back. We can't go back. We can only go forward. So we can't put Mr. Myron back in the position he was in before this happened, because our entire zoning scheme got updated. We have heavy industrial and light industrial now, and we didn't have that beforehand. Does it appear to be an oversight? I think so, that his section got rezoned because, like you say, if no one else's did, that seems to be an oversight in that regard. And it definitely, I don't blame him for being frustrated. He bought his property with certain attributes to it that he does not possess today. But we cannot go back to the way it was. The closest thing to that is heavy industrial. We would have to significantly update light industrial if somebody wanted to entertain that, because that was kind of kicked around by a couple people afterwards. It doesn't fit the scheme of that. You'd almost do better to remove some of those conditional uses from heavy industrial. But yes, we need to get through this process and we need to go about that. But there was there were a couple of city board members that I think were willing to entertain some things on this matter. But I think the issue of joint jurisdiction seems to be stifling more property rights than it is helping at this juncture. Because I mean, nothing has changed since before Mr. Myron applied for this. We've known we've had these issues. We've known he had these problems and nothing has changed. And I don't know, Drew, if you want to speak to that more or not, or whatever you want to say, but.
So right before I came down here, as I was standing up off my desk, Myron called me. And apparently there's some discussion from city council about moving grain elevator to light industrial. Don't know how far that's got, and that's just city council. City staff, I don't know if they're gonna go along with that. Now, to the next point about, getting changes from the city moving forward, getting a better agreement in place. We spent a year on those joint jurisdiction comprehensive plan discussions.
Probably 8 months that we've actually worked on it.
Yeah, and just complete stonewall. Like the biggest underlying problem is the joint jurisdiction comprehensive plan will only be the county's comprehensive plan for joint jurisdiction. The city will still have theirs. So anything we agree to, they actually have to follow. That's a huge problem. Not having one comprehensive plan because that's how we start making the next set of changes. And without that, maddening is just.
Well, when we first started, when they come with their plan of the extra land they wanted for joint jurisdiction, they wanted to go all the way to the county line along Highway 50. And they wanted to go just north of Lewis and Clark water plant and then circle all that in. So it wasn't just, if we grow, we want to be able to see what's right outside the city. Because that land grab they tried to do was 3 times bigger than the city is right now.
Yeah, 3 to 4.
Bigger than the city that they wanted. They finally told us, well, we really want to control what goes along Highway 50. That's not future growth for Vermillion. That's control. They don't have the right purpose behind what joint jurisdiction was meant for. They just want the control. That's not right. And that's not fair to the people who live in that joint jurisdiction area.
And they have said they don't want any commercial or industrial in the joint jurisdiction area.
Especially along Highway 50.
Anywhere. It's all got to be forced inside city limits. Maybe some residential, maybe a little, but the bulk of everything has to be forced inside city limits.
And if it has a sales tax attached to it, they definitely want it in city limits.
And utilities.
And utilities.
Utilities is a biggie.
And that's very different from how any other joint jurisdiction agreement is used in South Dakota. Yankton, Sioux City, Sioux Falls, Brookings, Spearfish, they don't use it like that. They use it as managing the growth, but not as a nothing here, all us.
Well, Sioux Falls and Minnehaha County. Minnehaha County has the final say. Sioux Falls doesn't even they don't have a vote on it.
My impression is that the term joint jurisdiction we're practicing it is quite a misnomer. It's more concurrent jurisdiction and overlapping jurisdiction rather than joint. Joint really implies that it is a cooperative setup. Especially if we end up de facto having 2 comprehensive plans, one county, one city, those are concurrent plans. That doesn't imply or even encourage joint development of that area. let's not even talk about it as city versus county. It's as if that almost makes it sound like that we don't also represent all those in the city too. I do, by the way. And that's important to me. I know that 2/3 of my constituents live within the city limits. It's and we have to keep that in mind also. But that doesn't mean that that we forfeit the right and the responsibility to represent them in the best manner, as well as those in the joint jurisdiction area. I own property in joint jurisdiction, and the property that I own there, I feel that is of really less value to me because there's additional and conflicting rules that I have to live under. And that's why I use the term bullseye development, is that presently, as we're doing this, development within joint jurisdiction is discouraged compared to both that within the city limits and outside of joint jurisdiction. It's not working, it's broken. It's not to say that we can't fix it in some way, but my opinion right now is that if we have to tear down the old building that's on the lot in order to make the lot more valuable to everybody involved, maybe that's the first step.
So, I mean, that's a really good summary, I think, of, the possible direction forward. So I'm curious, and maybe, I don't know if you know this, Drew or Alexis, whether other joint jurisdictions have a single comprehensive plan developed by the two parties, or whether they do what we do, which is to have, because it seems to me the source of the problem, right, is that you've got two bodies meeting in sequence to do any kind of approvals, and they're using different sets of rules to do it. So it sounds like maybe there should be one set of rules for joint jurisdiction. Is that how other joint jurisdictions work?
So just to answer that quickly, that was a big argument we had before. There is a joint jurisdiction comprehensive plan. And that's the one we're supposed to use. But the city says, no, we get to use our comprehensive plan also. But when we said, well, then we're going to use ours. No, you can't do that. You have to use the joint jurisdiction comprehensive plan. But we get to use ours also. So those are the two comprehensive plans that we're fighting with. There's the one that we agreed on together. And then there's the cities that we had no say in, but they're using it in joint jurisdiction. And I'll guarantee you there's probably no other. I can't say 100% accuracy, but I can't believe anybody else allows that.
I don't think state law does allow city to have a comprehensive plan into the joint jurisdiction area. I don't know the answer to the rest of your question. If other municipalities or something like that, I will research that.
But they allow it, but do we have to agree to it?
Our agreement isn't required.
For them to use their joint jurisdiction or their comprehensive plan?
I'm gonna feel that one, if that's all right. Okay, so here's where I think the rub is. They're gonna, when they come together for future planning, right? And that's what a comprehensive plan is supposed to really anticipate the future and how you want to grow and expand. So the city, and I want to speak for them, but I think this is part of the rationale with that is their future growth, their future land use map is going to extend out beyond the city for future planning purposes. The issue becomes when we have entered into this joint agreement, it would only make sense and be appropriate to consult the county as you reach outside into joint jurisdiction. because the governing portion of it, that future land use map, and when you write your ordinance or update your ordinance or do anything that's going to zone those parcels of property in joint jurisdiction, it has to be consistent with the joint jurisdiction, comprehensive plan, and future land use map. So we have this future land use map for joint jurisdiction. And the city ended up updating their future land use map and comprehensive plan, those types of things, without weighing in with the county, right? They can technically do that. But the problem is when that's inconsistent then with the joint jurisdiction comprehensive plan and future land use map, they put themselves in what they consider to be an ethical quandary, because they have to, they represent the city and they represent the city of their planning commission. So they put this into place over here for future growth for the city. How are they going to come back into joint jurisdiction and do something that contradicts what they've already committed to for the city future land use? The issue becomes, but you never consulted the county and you agreed to be a part of this joint jurisdiction too. And so, I mean, reasonable people would say you got ahead of yourself and you had to consult these folks in the county first, and you didn't do that. And now if you have a quandary, it's one you've created for yourself. And so now we have to come back to, because that doesn't govern, it does not govern joint jurisdiction. The joint jurisdiction. So that's where we got into this beef a year or so ago, where we have 3 different maps that we're all trying to compare, and 3 different, because then that's where the rationale from the county came in. Well, we can't just disregard our obligations to our county map too, but we had appropriately done our future map excluding joint jurisdiction, because we're looking out into what we can do. And when we consider joint jurisdiction, we come back to the drawing table with our joint jurisdiction boards. So I know it's a little bit of an overlap there, but yes, the governing piece of it is the joint jurisdiction map. They just chose to implement some things on the city side of stuff too that reaches out into that without consulting us. And that's where I think the problem comes in.
And one other thing is Clay County and Vermillion are somewhat out of step with the rest of the state. Most counties and cities don't use their comprehensive plan as heavily as ours was written. Like Yankton counties use 108 pages of statistics, including rainfall, hog prices. There's no, maybe 1 or 2 pages of some guidance, and that's it. All their comprehensive planning stuff was written into their zoning. They got to just use their comprehensive plan and check in the box. Clay County, and this, especially the city of Vermillion, uses comprehensive plan almost like a shadow zoning criteria. And the city of Vermillion heavily uses that, and that is very different than other municipalities. So again, state law, as it's written, yeah, they kind of let the city do that, but most cities don't do that. So again, they're in a path. It's just out of step with how everybody else does things.
Well, and I don't mind the way we use our comprehensive plan. It's an outline for what the zoning ordinance is supposed to be. What I get irritated with is when, however it's gonna fit somebody, you jump back and forth between the two. I mean, the zoning ordinance is the law. The comprehensive plan was the guideline to write the law. You can't go, well, it goes against the comprehensive plan, but it fits the zoning ordinance, which is the law. You know, the body uses that comprehensive plan as a fallback if they can't deny it outright in the zoning ordinance. That's a problem. And that's a big fight too, because we said the comprehensive plan is not the law. I mean, that's when Jim McCullough and you were in that same room that time, and you both agreed that it was so poorly written that nobody knows what it's doing. Then that we were trying to agree that when it is said and done, the zoning ordinance is what you follow. And we're having a hard time agreeing on that.
That's what I saw the other day.
I mean,
Both sides are interpreted different.
the zoning ordinance is what, it's not interpreted different. I mean, that's the thing, because I asked Jose, what would you consider ag opportunities if they're not a grain elevator? I mean, it specifically spells out what a grain elevator is. Oh, no, it's an ag business. I don't know.
Not when it's specifically written in there.
Yes.
That's where the rub comes in. It's specifically written, because I first read it too. I would agree with what he said, but when I went down further and I seen it specifically written in there, well, then that pretty much takes it out. You know, that being said. And I know he kept saying back in 2012 that it was everything was, or when it was written, I guess, everything was, there wasn't no heavy or light in industrial, it was just industrial. But they moved it to heavy when it got changed somehow. So I guess my question is when those ordinance that are written that way, when it got, how did that go from just industrial to light and heavy? Did that evidently got written into the ordinance in the joint area too, then later on, is that correct?
Yeah, in 2012, when it was adopted, that's.
Okay. Okay, so that's how they did.
They split them apart, because I think that's what most counties probably use.
Right.
It's obviously what C county uses. I mean, this is their template for everybody.
I mean, I like the idea is that you have a joint area, and you have a joint ordinance set up for that. But that should not, the cities and the counties should not even be involved in that. It should be just those ordinance that are in that area. I mean, they shouldn't come in to realm, you know, and I think that's what you're saying is the cities is bringing theirs in and saying that's what we got to rule by, not by this joint one. That's what I'm getting.
Well, and you know, I know there was a huge confusion, probably the first 5 years on joint jurisdiction when I was on there. We didn't know there was a joint jurisdiction comprehensive plan. And so we, you know, the county said was contemplating the county's comprehensive plan, and the city was using their comprehensive plan. So there was a huge argument. Finally, somebody said, well, there's a comprehensive plan for the joint jurisdiction. Oh, okay. So we started using that. And then at the next meeting, the city's like, well, we get to use our comprehensive plan too, though. And then it all just blew apart again. I mean, they're telling us you can't use your comprehensive plan. We get to use ours though. It's broken.
And I can understand what Betty's saying when she says that, you know, the city has to see what's going on out there for their benefit in the future. I get that. I totally get that. And basically what Dick said too, you know, we're here to govern all the people, basically, to do what's best for city and county. But I guess when I look at it, the idea is, to me, is if you're going to work together in a joint area, you got to go by what the laws that you came up with in that area. And if they need to be fixed, then that's fine. But getting back to Myron's deal right now is we got to try to do something for him now, because otherwise, and then try to fix it. We can't, this is in front of us now. We need to fix his problem now and then go in and try to fix the other. I think there's some of that ordinance can be rewritten. You know, I really do. But that doesn't help Kevin right now.
No, and we can't talk about his anymore right now either. Because we're gonna hear it again.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, very true.
But I'm also having a problem with joint jurisdiction, that they're holding up development if they can't get them to annex in. They won't approve their plats if they won't annex. And I specifically have asked them, you cannot deny this because they won't annex in. They won't agree to that. I go, you get to use your street plan, you get all your setbacks, you get everything else, you know, because it's gonna fit. When growth reaches in and surrounds them, they're gonna come in, you know. But you can't make them annex in right now. They don't want that. They want to be able to force them to annex into the city.
I would think that'd be a huge problem for BDC.
It is.
Yeah,
What do they say?
I have never heard you know, that's something I'm going to talk to.
It'd be really,
Nada, 'cause
that
I'd
would
like
be
to
a
know.
really useful conversation, I
Because
think, even to have with the board,
Correct.
because you're on the board, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. That would be a really good conversation for the board to
Yeah.
have.
Because that doesn't help you bring people in it. If that's the status of the city, and I mean, if that's their status. And John's on the board and the mayor's there on the board too. So I mean, you got them both there. I mean, I guess that is something I will bring up.
If it's not their status, it wouldn't be an issue then. They'd have been like, okay, we're fine with that. But they're fighting.
That's something,
They
yeah.
don't want to have that. They want to be able to annex them in. And
'Cause
bet
I wasn't
businesses
aware of
call
that.
me.
Yeah, I'd be curious to hear the outcome of that discussion.
You gonna get an honest answer out of Nate when he's got his bosses sitting in front of him?
I don't know. That's
I
a
mean,
good question. I know.
it's tough to speak out against your employer.
Well, it always is. I mean, that's, if you want to stay employed.
Well, I know, that's the
I
problem.
know, I hear you. And that might not, but I guess it's something to bring up to the board. And if the board see, maybe somebody else wants to know about it too.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, I do, because I never knew that till you just said it now. And if that's the case, then I guess I want to know the answer. You know,
Yeah, and the board's really the policy-making body there.
correct.
So they're the ones who make the decision on what the VCDC's position will be.
Mhm. This is a tough one.
If we decide to get out of the jurisdiction, we're probably gonna have a joint meeting with city council at some point over Byron's deal, because it'll probably be an appeal if it goes that way. Would the board be interested in having a discussion item after that on what the city council thinks about zoning joint jurisdiction? The second agenda item for that meeting.
That's fine.
It's definitely been brought up in planning and zoning meetings. They're aware of it. I don't know what the city council thinks of that.
So they meet, they hear Myron's next Monday, correct? Would everybody be okay with, because Drew's gonna be there
I don't know yet.
and I can't speak at it because I'm gonna hear it the next day. But what I wanted to do when I went, and Drew told me I can't go, but I wanted him to pass it so we can have that joint conversation in the same room. And I was just wondering if he could take that message for us, if the board would be okay with that. Because passing it doesn't hold them to anything. They can deny it after the second reading. But I think we need to be in the same room to have this conversation.
I guess I would agree with that. I think it's nice to get everybody in the same room once. Sure. Guess I don't know how everybody else feels.
No, I think that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think a conversation is really important.
I do too, communication.
Yep.
Well, it's just for Myron's thing.
Right, right. You never have enough communication.
Anybody have anything else?
Vouchers?
Oh, better take a few minutes to look at the vouchers. So when it's a civil trial, do we pay the juror fees then too?
Yes.
Yeah. Keep
Gotta take it home and
keep a
clean it.
cap on that guy.
Yeah.
There are a lot of times I cannot resist.
Yeah, I hear you.
Bad boy.
I think he handled it pretty well.
You know, they're sitting here looking through these. The state sends us a prorated amount back for the amount that we spend on like court appointed attorney and A&N. So how am I gonna track that with the contract?
Move to approve.
Are you done, Betty? I didn't want to cut you out.
So they
Okay.
separate out like public defender and court appointed attorney are together. Separate.
They should turn in all of their salaries until the end, but they turn in their bills on the end. Even if we're on contract with them, and then that should go on you guys for collection.
Is Carrie talking?
Yeah, sorry, I was talking to Lexi, just
Oh,
an
okay.
outside conversation.
Wasn't there a motion to approve?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just waiting for Betty to finish reading.
Okay.
All right.
So Dick made the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Packard,
Yes.
Mochler.
Yes, motion passes. Anybody have anything else?
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Packard,
Yes.
Mochler.
Yes, motion passes. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.